little while back, before COVID hit, um, I had a lot of people that I was following who tended to be on the East Coast because that's where I was. And when COVID hit, I realized there was a whole other part of the country and a whole other part of the world where there were some people who knew what they were talking about. And one of the first people I started listening to was on Sunday morning, Ralph with his two brothers doing a magnificent big book study. And so I am honored that he agreed to come here this month. I'm so sorry this is the last of the month, but we are going to ask you back, Ralph. We are going to ask you to come back, and hopefully you will do so. So I give you our friend and mentor, Ralph W.
Howard, I want to thank you. Thank you for the honor and the privilege. You were doing the announcements about Paige, doing all those every day, and I'm like, wow, what an order, you know. And my hat is off. I think I tell you guys all the time, my sobriety date is October the 11th, 1986. So I've been doing this 38 years. And I came out of desperation, but I certainly have stayed out of inspiration. And I get inspired when I hear stories like that. I get inspired with people picking up the torch. I get inspired with so many of you guys that I see on here, the service that you do. More importantly, the way that you live. Andy, when he had his son, that's the kind of stuff that inspires me. You know what I mean? I appreciate the depth of the knowledge and the information, but I think the reason most of us came here, and by here, I mean to this new way of life, is uh, at least for me, I want to, there are some things I want to do and I want to be. I would like to see my kids look at me with respect in their eyes. I would like to show up at graduation. I would like to bounce my boy like Andy was doing his. I would like reading this book to you guys is cool. But on Thursday, I'm going to have a house full of grandkids. I don't want anybody to be offended, but it don't get no better than that. I'm going to be spending time with you guys, but I've been put back. I know my assignment and I'm not scared. Uh, I think I'm supposed to be reading, no, Howard. I'm sorry. And this fits me exactly what we're reading. Our actor is self-centered, ego-centric, as we like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Politicians and reformers who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, or our self-pity? Okay, the hell are you talking about, sir? Read this stuff. And as we know by now, taking this journey through this book, and you guys, not just here, but as you go through your recovery. And so we hit this paragraph, and that, Bill often, as in most spiritual leaders, communicators, most paint pictures. The best way to get a point across, most people have found is through examples, often through metaphors, often through stories. He'll say, Ralph, you selfish and self-centered, but then he'll give me some examples. Sometimes the example is harder for me to wrap my head around. So the first time I was confronted with it, he's like the Florida businessman who retires and lows and complaining. So I'm kicking back, right? I'm retired. I got my money. All I'm thinking about. And so now I'm going to sit back and I'm going to talk crazy about everything else. I ain't doing nothing about it. And I think everything revolves around me. So he talks about the Florida, the guy who's retired, the minister who sighs over the sins of the 20. Okay. Mr. Preacher Man, instead of you talking about it, how about you be about it? Because it's always about me. Forget the safecracker, forget the businessman, and forget the preacher. Mr. White, what about you? How does this affect? What about you? Ego, our actor is self-centered, egocentric. It's always about me. Have you ever, sometimes, and I'm gonna start throwing some stones, and if it come your way, just duck. Have you ever had a situation, and you might hear with a sponsee or yourself, somebody dies, somebody's sick. I heard somebody one time have the nerve to say, how did he have the nerve to die on me? you know I have to do, damn, they dead, I got to make all these damn funeral arrangements. They didn't make this stuff in time. And check this out. So my mom is 94, and my mom stays with me. And my mom has issued a call to everybody this year. I don't want to say, oh, my mom is looking at each holiday like it might be. I'm not saying that. But my mom issued a call to the clan, my house, this Thanksgiving. Over the last years, often it's been in my older daughter's house. My older daughter has a nice spot, and we've restricted my mom from cooking. My mom is the matriarch of the family. My mom loves it, but it gets hot in that kitchen. My mom's 94. So all the women in the family have said, Mama, you're not cooking. And all the women in my family, the daughters-in-laws and my brother's wife, all the women can cook, including my daughters. So it's a big deal at the White House. We get together for this holiday. But this year, moms have said it. Well, refrigerator has been out. I was in Atlanta at Leslie's house right before when I left to go there, and I was there about a month. And so I was trying to maneuver and get it fixed while I was there. Reggie came over one day and was waiting on the repair people 6 times. They didn't come through. Now I have a 5-year warranty because you know, yeah, let me stick my chest out. Now that I'm a responsible person, I get insurance, I get warranties, trust me, that was not how, but that's how I get down. So anyway, I'm like, Best Buy, just send me a new refrigerator. So now I've been home, and I've been going at it for a couple of weeks, hard with these people. So the other day I'm going at it, and Mom's is listening. I mean, is there, and is now in my mind chirping in the background, Ralph, and she don't know what's going on. Why don't you see if you can just have them? And immediately, wait a minute. I know how to handle this business. I'm taking care of this. I don't need no outside interference. I don't need no outside influences. My ex-wife comes over, hand me the phone. Why don't you? Oh, now it's, what the F you mean we hand you the phone? I'm taking care of it. So now, when we read this, I wish we could go into the next paragraph too, because it talks about selfishness, self-centeredness. That's what we think is the root of our troubles. I step on the toes of my fellows, because not only was that in my head, you guys, it came out my mouth. I got this. I don't need. So now the issue is not a refrigerator for my mom, so that by Thanksgiving, parenthetically, you guys, I already had another refrigerator in the garage. My ex-wife does a lot of catering, so it ain't disastrous. It's just inconvenient. But now it is no longer about, now it's about me. Now it's about me. It's about my management. It's about, wait a minute, you don't trust me to handle this. You don't think, how you think you know better than me, now we veered off of the deal, getting a refrigerator in the house, to who invited you into my conversation, you know, to how dare you think that you gonna have something to offer superior to the way that I'm handling this already. Ralph, how did it get to be about you? Ain't nobody saying they can do it better than you. Ain't nobody saying there's something wrong with you. Ain't nobody calling you stupid. Nobody is saying you incompetent. Nobody, but that's what I'm hearing, all of it. We went back last week, you guys, when we talked about the actor setting the stage, wanting everybody to do their part and do their role. And so that is the kind of way, so me, selfish, self-centered, everything revolves around me. A lot of you guys are sitting on here right now harboring a resentment, harboring a grudge, bumping heads with somebody, all because I made it about me. Talked to a sponsor of mine a couple of weeks ago. I wouldn't be bringing up, so I like to talk about my stuff, you guys. Sometimes whenever I hear a person that is consistently telling me what they do with their spouse, I'm like, so you no longer are prey to any of this stuff yourself, so, but I have a lot in my arsenal because I sponsor. That's one of the reasons we sponsor you guys. You'll have a lot of bullets, because I don't bring anything that's fresh. You guys think I do. Oh, Ralph, is it? No, no, no. I'm a sponge, and I bring it back. I bring back with the wisdom of a
Ralph,
lot of you.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but please go ahead and take that next paragraph.
Okay, I will do it. And I'm going to get right back in here. Selfishness, self-centeredness. That we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some point in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later put us in a position to be hurt. That's a precursor to what we're getting ready to do when we leave this step. This step is, remember, this step is a promise to submit to the rest of the process. How do I give legs to my third step? We're talking about third step, ladies and gentlemen. We're on the threshold of getting ready to get on our knees and say, okay, God, do something with me. But the way that I participate in that, do something with me, what I give legs to this third step is I immediately pick up pen and paper. That's the legs, Ralph, you mixing metaphor. Yeah, that's the legs, pen to paper, to the third step, right? And so this is telling me what I'm getting ready to do, driven by 100 forms. And don't get literal, you guys. I was talking to one of my sponsors, I think Bill, me and him were talking on the phone, and sometimes we read this book literally. I heard somebody talk to me one time about the book tells me that, I'm driven by 100 forms of fear. I've been able to write down about 40 something. That means I have six. Just stop it. Stop tripping. Instead of Bill saying we driven by a gang of fears, instead of Bill saying we driven by a whole lot of fears, instead of Bill saying we driven by, innumerable, he said we driven by 100 forms of fear. Don't try to count them up, literal people. Now, if some of y'all are literal like that, take it back. I'm not in the share shaming. I'm really not. If you get something from counting them up, get something from counting them up. But for most of you guys who've not done this before, that's Bill's way of saying, Ralph White, you are consumed by a whole lot, too many to count. You'll get slapped in a new one day, and you're like, damn, I didn't even know I had that one. But driven by 100 forms of fear. So I was talking to a sponsor, and he might share the story one day, and you'll say, "Ooh, Ralph was talking about him." So he's a stepfather, and he's got a lot of stuff going on, and so he talked to me in a 10th step, and he was dealing with something with his son, and his wife has signed his son up to play ball, right? And he came back and came at his wife with, wow, I think that's messed up. We had discussed this. You making major decisions without including me in them. I thought we had talked about how every major thing we do, we would be jointly considered, and so he's going in on her and like, I love you, blah, blah, blah. He's doing the same, but but I'm really disappointed. I thought that we had agreed, and it feels like to me, like you are leaving me out of this major decision making. I know he's not my biological son, but I feel like I'm raising him like I thought we had agreed. Teamwork sounds reasonable, right? And so he says this, and he talks to me, spots, they tripping, she tripping, boo, 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 boo. First thing that came out of my mouth, which is why we have the benefit of sponsorship, you guys. A lot of things that come out of my mouth when it's coming from a sponsee and I'm talking to them, trust me, it wouldn't come out of my mouth if I were the one in that situation. So you might be driven to think to yourself, why can't you take your own advice? Well, nobody can. I can't see my picture when I'm in the frame. That is why all of us are sponsored, because the very thing, it seems like a small thing when it's Rob, but when it's me, it's huge. Check this out. The only minor surgery is surgery that's on somebody else. When it's me, it's life threatening. When it's you, that's a fingernail, but when it's me, oh my God. But anyway, it jumped out at me. So he's saying, I thought she's, violating this parental contract we have. We're going to go into everything jointly. And I said, first thing came out to me from the outside looking in. Dude, when did this become about you? How did you make this about you? It's a referendum on your family now on whether or not we going to operate as a unit, whether or not me and you even have something. Because you guys know, whenever folk like us have a bump in the road, and I don't care how good it looks. Me and Leslie, we a great pair. I'm gonna put Howard on Front Street. Howard and Kathy, everybody can think they're a rock and they're immovable and they're unshakable. But the minute one thing goes south, why do I go in this ain't even worth it? Man, I'm up out of here. What's up with this people? I don't even know why I still Ralph, you in something solid, but there is this deal in me that runs deep, which is why we continue this self-examination. Anyway, I'm like, dude, how did this become about you? Let's go over this. Your wife is one of us too. Your wife has a background of having some things that she deals with for herself in terms of her as a mom, the fact that she was getting loaded when she was having a bunch of stuff, and now she comes to you extremely proud. Look, I signed our boy up. I know it means a lot to you that he's playing ball. You are in the ball. You're supportive of that. And it's probably like, look what I did. And the first thing you say is, what you doing going off with? Really? How did that become about you? I'm gonna scroll through here because I want to look at some of y'all. I see you, Paul. I see you, Tommy. I see you. How did that become about you? How did that become about you? Tina, the next time you hit the Rubicon, when you go sideways with your husband, I want you to step back for a minute. It may not be, but sometimes the first question to ask myself, Ralph, how did this become about you, dude? Do you realize that everybody has their own stuff that they're dealing with? And a lot of the times when they go into their decision making, when they go into what it is that informs how they respond and react, you're not in the picture. And you made a contract with Miss Leslie Strength some time back. I got you. I got your back until something happens with me. So when it talks about our actor as selfish, ego-centric, we call it these days, I'm gonna put some stuff on the floor as we go into this third step. As I go about my day-to-day life with my kids, with my significant other, in the workplace, with my sponsees, with members of my home group, with members in the fellowship, with people I encounter in my day to day. When it is that I feel as if somebody has infringed on me, am I going to step back and take a look at, Ralph, when did this become about me? Because guess what, ladies and gentlemen, not everything is about me. And most folk, particularly folk like us, we so busy thinking about us, we really ain't aiming it at you. It just feels that way. Sometimes, and the reason in our fourth step I'm gonna give you guys a preview, and then I'm gonna bring it back to our reading right now. There's a preview in the fourth step. And in the end of the fourth step, it says, this was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Sometimes when something happens that I take personal and I think is about me, I was just in the blast radius of somebody who had a spiritual cold and they sneezed on me. They didn't aim it at me. Anybody in the blast radius is going to get the sneeze. And I'm going to say, how the hell are you doing this to me? This business of so we're prepping for the third step, you guys. If only the people in the world will behave. He talks about the outlaw safecracker who thinks the world is wrong. How often do you see? I'm busted. I did it. I'm standing on, but you can't prove it. You don't have pictures. These days they got pictures. Everywhere you go, it's pictures. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, and our self-pity. Keep this on your mental board, because this is what I'm going to be taking when I come up out of this step. So driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion. A lot of times you'll hear that word denial. Most of the time for folk like us, it's delusion. Denial is, runs much deeper. That's blue. No, it ain't. That's red. Okay. That's me refusing to accept the fact. Delusion runs much deeper. Delusion is, I believe what it is that I think is the truth. I believe something that ain't true to be true. I ain't hurting nobody when I'm in the life. One of the big delusions, that I can hold resentments, and a huge delusion. In our third step, when we read chapter 3, it says the delusion that we are like other people, or presently maybe the idea that I can hold resentments like other people. Oh, that's a delusion. That's something that I think is true that ain't true. And I really operate on it. Howard, I see I'm in my last 50 seconds, and it has been a wonderful time that I've had the opportunity to spend with you guys to talk about some of the stuff that still I find incredibly valuable in going through my day-to-day. I would encourage everybody to not come in and read the information like I'm reading it to acquire and accumulate facts and information. I want to read what it is we're reading because I want to be transformed. I want to read what it is I'm reading because I don't want to be dominated by these fears that I have. I want to be able to be successfully a mate to my mate. I want to be successfully a dad to my kids. I want to show up on Thanksgiving and not show my ass in front of everybody. I want to not take things personal. I want to come to an occasion and leave it better than the way that I found it. That's the reason why we talk about this third step proposition. That's the reason we talk about being free from what we call this bondage of self. Bill is going to call it a lot of other things. Right now, this bondage of self, he's calling it selfishness and self-centeredness. I'm out of time, you guys, and I have so enjoyed getting the opportunity to spend these 4 weeks with you. I hope you got a little something out of it. If I certainly did. I have a good time talking about this good life. The Chuck C called it the best life I have ever known. So I don't call it a good time talking about this book. This book is our best, but I like to talk about this good life that has been given to me as a result of practicing what we've been talking about in this book. I'm Ralph White. I'm an alcoholic.
Thank you so much, Ralph. I'm going to unmute everybody and let loose the dogs of war.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ralph.
Ralph.
Thank you,
Thank
Ralph.
you,
Thank
Ralph.
you,
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Ralph.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Always
Thank
fantastic.
you, Ralph.